All right, we are live with Mr. Paul Carney. Every time I do these intros, I want to go, we introducing Paul Carney, 6'4", sold 1 million homes last year, sell your house faster than you can say EXP.
Great. Maybe one day.
That's like every time I do those intros, I'm like, what do I say here? But Paul was the first round draft pick, as we call him around here. He was the first person that, when we were very, very early on, to make the jump to EXP. He was open-minded enough to take the meeting with us and listen to what this brokerage has to offer. And he was equally as blown away as we were, because he jumped ship from the brokerage that he was at and came over. So now it's been the first calendar year that you've been here. I think these year in reviews, I mean, we had Lorna Willis on the other day, and I thought everything that she had to say was so phenomenal. Like, there's a bunch of other stories that we have from people like you and I at EXP over their first year that we need to talk about. And I think we need to get that message out there. So you obviously have an interesting story, coming from a bigger team in Kingston, going out on your own, because you didn't actually join the NadeAu Real Estate Group, which for everybody in our local market is an option with EXP. Yep. But you went out on your own. So that rebranding was something that went down this year for you, which we'll get into a little bit later. But let's start with, what were your initial thoughts of EXP? The good, the bad, the ugly, before you really knew much and we dove into exactly what everything rolled out was. What were your initial thoughts on it when you first got exposed to the model?
Yeah, I think the very first conversation I ever had about it, I didn't really take much in. I was at a real estate conference and I was talking to a colleague who was a member of it. She was talking a bit about it and I hadn't heard of it. I just assumed that it was some small fly-by-night company, and I really didn't. I was pretty dismissive about it overall. The first time I really heard about it, I think, was when your team, when the NadeAu team ended up closing up your independent brokerage and switching over to the EXP model. And I knew that was something that really kind of struck a chord. Why would a team who had a record year, you had one of your best years, as I recall, make a move like this? Well, it's certainly not something you were going to do unless it was well researched and vetted. And, you know, especially with Pierre running that team as well, and over 20 years of real estate experience, I knew that there was a little bit more to this than what I had initially thought. But, you know, other things I was hearing about when I was researching was where people were asking, is this a pyramid scam? What's the catch? I was worried that I was at a brokerage with a lot of brand recognition in my local area.
Yep.
And I was worried that I would switch into something and maybe not be as recognized because I did that. I was also reading up on stuff about the stock ownership that EXP has and how this is sort of just a gimmick. And so these were some of the initial things I had heard. But, you know, the one thing that was in the back of my mind was the fact that while the NadeAu team switched over, and there was a few other teams near us that had done a similar move. So I knew I had to keep an open mind.
So one of the things that you mentioned there too was your one concern was that you weren't going to have that kind of brand recognition, being EXP being a newer brand, especially to Canada. Did you ever find that throughout this year that was an issue with a potential client? Because I've had that question asked to me by a lot of agents. Well, you know, I'm not sure about the brand and whatever. And my response has always been, first of all, I haven't had one listing appointment ask me, you know, anything about the brand, because in my opinion, the brand is yourself. Nobody wants to do business with EXP or Remax or Century 21. It's Paul Carney or PatNadeau. That's who they want to list their home. I don't think the brand has as much to do with it. You're the brand. But my response would have always been this: I'm a part of the fastest growing brokerage in real estate history in North America. What else could you ask for? So, but did you find that you had anybody ask you that while listing their properties, or anybody have any kind of issues with it when you made your change? Because I think that's a big concern for some people that have considered the model.
Yeah, that was a really big concern. And that was one of the things that was maybe stopping me from joining sooner, was this idea that if I switch over, are people not going to feel as confident in what I'm going to be able to do for them, because now I'm working at a different brokerage. And my very first client that I had listed since I switched over was originally referred to me a few years ago from an agent at the brokerage I used to work at.
Right.
And that referral was actually the sister of my client who worked
Right.
at that other agent, at that other brokerage.
Right.
So right off the bat, I'm having a conversation with my first client saying, well, I typically, I was told to stick with the brand that you were previously working at. And I just laid it all out. I said, look, I made this decision. Obviously, there was reasons that I knew were going to benefit me from making a switch like this, but I wouldn't have been able to think about making a switch like this unless I didn't think that it would also be better for my clients.
Bang.
So everything that I've delivered to you to this point is going to at least be there. Now I have new tools that I can now leverage that's going to make it even better for you. And I threw it out there. Look, you were expecting to work with myself being part of the other brand, and if you still want to be within that brand, then go ahead and do that. But I hope that we can still maintain a relationship here. And sure enough, after a day of research, he called me back and said, yeah, I'm going to stick with you. And every other client that I had told that, hey, I'm switching to this new brokerage and here's why I'm doing this, they were right on board with me. It became very apparent that people were hiring me because they wanted to work with me. And whatever brokerage I was part of, I think was really more of a secondary thing. So that was really an awakening because I didn't know that was going to be the case at first when I switched over. It was a little bit scary thinking, am I going to have clients dropping off because of this? And the reality is I didn't lose one.
Yeah. And that's a good point. I mean, we had with our entire team that we brought over with somewhere around 12 agents when we originally made the change. I think we had somewhere around 80 listings, and not one of those listings when we switched over bailed. Because I mean, like you said it so perfectly there is, yeah, okay, there's all this training and collaboration and stuff that's great for me. And that's why me, the agent, makes the decision to make the move. But all of that stuff makes it better for the client. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Can I sell your home faster? Can I get you access to, better material? And can I negotiate a better deal for you? And the answer is yes with this brokerage, because there's so much more training and stuff involved. So
that's what it comes down to at the end.
Yeah. So talking about training. Talking about training too. Let's talk about because I know there was one kind of tipping point in particular that made kind of the scales tip. You gathered information about EXP, and then eventually it kind of went like this, and you were on board. And I think that was the big, you talking about getting into coaching and stuff before. So talk a bit about where you were at in your business before, maybe some of your pain points, and then eventually what made you make that decision to switch with the coaching aspect and all that, because I know you have a little bit of info on that.
Yeah, I was at a point where I could feel that my my personal brand was growing, but I was leading a very successful team, and it was a great team. But it was at a point where I wanted to go on my own and grow my own name a little bit more. I realized in doing so that I'm a little bit in uncharted territory here, and I'm going to need some kind of professional coaching in order to help systemize things a little bit more, help with my branding a little bit more, and just sort of have a clearer direction about what this all means and where it's going. So with coaching in real estate, you can spend really good money doing this. I was looking at coaches that are north of $1,000 a month to give that for you, and this was something I was seriously considering. So now I have a conversation with Pierre and with you about EXP, and then I start realizing, wait a minute, you're talking about this collaboration and training component to this brokerage. Is that serious? How does that work? Do you have to pay into this? No, this is part of your brokerage fees. And you're going to have access to all this. And by the way, the people that are these coaches that are giving you this access, they grew a coaching business before they even joined up with this company. And that's now a part of you. So now I'm thinking, I was just at the point where I was fine with making this investment and doing that. And now I realize I don't have to. It's built into my brokerage fees, which, by the way, are half of what I was paying previously. So
crazy.
That was like the biggest pain point, and then here's a solution for you right here. So that was really, for me at the time, that was reason number one for joining.
100%. So, and I mean, yeah, because I think the biggest thing from what you just said too was at the end of the day, when you do the math, like forget about the training, forget about all this awesome stuff, the collaboration, because I think that's the same thing that attracted me to the business. Because, with EXP, with all these different pillars, there's something that attracts every agent, but forget about all that stuff. At the end of the day, if any agent, especially in Canada, looks at what this company is offering and how much it's going to cost you to be here versus what you're getting and what you're paying now, the math just makes sense. And that's what it sounds like you did at the end of the day. I mean, you looked at that $12,000 to $15,000 investment you were going to make in a year to have coaching, and you immediately had it overnight with some of the biggest agents in North America. I mean, to be in personal contact with Jay Kinder, Al Stasic, Mike Reese, Brent Gove, all these guys that you can just literally reach out to at any minute of the day as a resource to help you. I mean, that's worth a lot of money in itself. And to say that you were going to save money by coming to this brokerage on top of all that, it's a no-brainer, right?
And these people have so much to offer, from teaching you the systems that were helping them be successful in growing their business to highs that I never even thought existed. But I also found with these people too, just being so humble and being so approachable. I thought that, maybe after I joined the brokerage, I won't hear from these people again. And sure enough, I talked to Jay Kinder, almost on a monthly basis. And I tune into the live coaching streams that they have going every week. And it's just such an amazing opportunity that we have. And I've been very grateful for that, because I realized there's a lot more that I'm going to have to forever learn in this business. But from where I've come from and where I am now, I'm really happy with the trajectory that I'm on.
Absolutely. I think that's 100% the biggest thing that attracted me to the brokerage. And when you go down to these events, which fingers crossed, let's hope this COVID thing gets figured out, because I'm missing them. I know that when you and I went down to Vegas and we came back, there was a fire lit, within us that you can't even match. Because I said, and some people that I've talked to have said they don't like this analogy because it's whatever. But I said it felt like we were swimming with sharks. And the thing, some people are like, well, don't say sharks because, sharks seems like they're whatever. But have you ever seen like a documentary where they show a shark entering a reef? The fish hide. And I feel like now actually, you know what? When I was in RE/MAX in Ottawa, I could see this, right? The big agents were walking down the hallway. They walk to their office. They shut the door. That's it. They do their thing. And the rest of the fish, I mean, we're trying to see what else is going on. But imagine if you're up above them and you're watching how they did exactly what they do. It's imagine that the biggest agent at if you're at RE/MAX or Royal LePage or whatever, think of the biggest agent that's there. Imagine if they went like this and opened their door and said, here's my playbook. This is how I do everything. This is where all my successes come from. If you do this, they say good artists copy, great artists steal. If you just do this, your business will grow at the same rate as mine. How would your business not grow? They're saying this is what works, right? So that was the craziest thing for me, because that's exactly what it was. It was all the top agents in North America sitting in a room, some of them on the panel, some of them sitting across from you at a bar. I had a 5-minute conversation with John Kitchens in his swim shorts that will forever have changed my life. He's sitting there drinking a martini and he goes, hey, do this and you'll double your business this year. And I did only that one thing that he told me to do, and I doubled my business in 6 months. So it's like that whole aspect to me was what definitely changed my business. But if there was one thing in particular that you had to name that was like the most influential thing from EXP, because there's so many different things, can you put your finger on one specific pillar, or is there one thing that kind of, you felt definitely helped your business exponentially this year?
Yeah, I think it's what I've touched on. I've thought a lot about this, and there's a long list of how EXP has ultimately helped my business. But I really do think that what I had come there for as reason number one ended up being the biggest thing that's influenced my business, is surrounding myself with these mentors and coaches, being able to collaborate and being able to have a little bit more of a clear path about where I'm at and what I need to do to get to where I want to go. That's probably been the biggest thing with the collaboration component and the training component that EXP has to offer. Now, time has since gone by. I've been here for over a year, and the stock option and ownership has really been something that's been meaningful to me, because now I really do see the growth in my portfolio and how it's grown. And I feel like a sense of pride that I'm an owner of the company as well too. And I think what that's allowed me to do is also to feel like I'm more on a team, even though I'm my own agent with my own brand within EXP. I feel like I'm on a team with you. I feel like I'm on a team with everybody that's at our office and everybody that's across North America that we got to meet at these conferences. And that's such a great feeling to be able to cheer each other on, because we're in a business that's very hyper competitive.
100%.
And we're all, independent contractors at the end of the day. But to be incentivized to cheer each other on and to feel like you have more ownership in this whole company has really been something that I didn't really think about too much when I joined, but it's meaningful both in, well, the value of how it's grown and also just the psychological value of it as well too. So I have a lot of pride with working with this company, seeing the growth of it and seeing where it's going to go too.
So if you had any advice for, if there's an agent out there that is about to take on a coaching and aspect, they're about to drop a ton of money on that investing for 2021, or they have some big goals and they want to take their business to the next level, and they are just like thinking about EXP, what would you have any advice for them as far as the next step forward, or,
Yeah. I think the biggest thing before I even say any advice is just to think for yourself, because what's right for you, Pat, what's right for me is going to be different for everybody. The reasons why people join this brokerage are completely different depending on where they're at in their career and what they need, how they need to leverage from their brokerage. So when you're at the point that I was at before I joined before I joined EXP, I would just say that if you think for yourself and you keep an open mind, you're going to see what different brokerages and different coaches and different people have to offer, and you got to make a decision for what's best for your life. Because I'm not saying everybody should join EXP or should do this or that, but you have to be able to have an open mind when you're hearing these different options that are available and see how it's going to affect your career. I had a lot of people reach out to me during my transition and offer me their advice, which I greatly appreciated. And everybody's looking out for my best interest, but they're ultimately not me. They're giving me advice based on what their own experiences are. And so I really had to dig deep and say, well, this is, as much as I've taken all this advice from all these other people, this really has to be my own decision. And I ultimately have to be the one that has to live with it at the end of the day. So there were people that thought I was crazy when I first joined over, but I knew that this was a decision for me and the path that I was on. And I'm grateful that I had enough of an open mind to at least learn what the platform was and make some, big decisions at a time where no one else was really telling me to do it besides the people that were already part of the company. Mm-hmm. So that would be the biggest advice I would have for people is, you're going to get a lot of competing advice from a lot of other people, but at the end of the day, it's your own experience and you have to do what's right for yourself.
I think it's very important to pay attention to who's giving the advice as well, because if if you're looking to purchase a Tesla, you don't want to go to the Ford dealership to get information about how a Tesla works. Walk into the doors of a Tesla and test drive it, talk about the features that it has to offer. Just make sure that you're getting your information from the right source. And I think that's what you did when you sat down with us. And the other thing is being able to be open-minded enough to admit that maybe there is a better way for all of us to get to our goals, with something that's different. And, all of these brokers that we're working for right now were built 30, 40, 50 years ago. And then you look at these other industries like Airbnb and Uber and so on, the world is changing, especially with, the pandemic that's going on right now. I think a lot of stuff is about to change real fast. So
the pandemic really drove it home, especially for this company too. We talk about where technology is going and this whole idea across many different industries. Is technology going to replace us, right? You hear a lot of chatter about this. And what I think is that where real estate's going and who's going to be the most successful in it are going to be the people that leverage technology the most, right?
Absolutely.
And we have this platform with EXP where they have leveraged technology so well with EXPU, their whole online platform. It's pretty revolutionary. So I think the future of this business is going to ultimately be the people who are able to hone in and master all the new technology that's available and being able to pivot quickly as new innovations come out. And that's
100%.
exactly what this company does. I feel like they're very much on the cutting edge of all this stuff, and there's so much to learn every day.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna have your numbers scrolling at the bottom here. Anybody that has any interest in learning a little bit more, and just if you're open-minded enough to hear out what this crazy company is doing, reach out to Paul or reach out to myself. My Instagram handle's on there. And until then, as we say around here we grow.
Pat, thanks again, man.
No problem.
All
right.